The last thing I would like to change in our project is to change the Django application which we created in the previous episodes. As you remember, our current Django application is the application created with the virtual environment, and it's created with the instructions from the Django website. But there is something better on the market, and I will show you, I think, much better approach in starting a new project in creating the base Django application. The solution I recommend you to use is the Django Cookiecutter. Before we will go next and we will build our Django application with Cookiecutter, let's try to find out a little bit more information what the Cookiecutter is and why it's worth to use it. As always, let's start with the internet browser and type Cookiecutter. Here in the search results, the first link leads us to GitHub repository of the Cookiecutter, where we can read that Cookiecutter create projects swiftly from the Cookiecutters, what is the project templates, with this command line utility. And as it's written here, it's ideal for generating Python package projects and more. This sounds interesting, but let's go to the documentation and read about the Cookiecutter a little bit more. Here in the installation section, we can read absolutely two simple commands to install it. Please don't do it now. I would like to point your attention to the features section, where we can read that it's cross-platform, supports Windows, Mac and Linux. That sounds good. It's user-friendly, no Python knowledge required. That also sounds good. It's versatile, so it's compatible with Python 3.7 to 3.12, quite a wide range of Pythons. And it's multi-language support, so it's use templates in any language or markup format. It sounds really good and it looks like it's a very convenient tool. Let's go further, and here in the available templates section, we can read that we can discover a variety of ready-to-use templates on GitHub. As we click it, we will go to the GitHub repository with the whole templates we can use in our Python applications. As you see, it's absolutely huge bunch of templates. But let's go back to the Cookiecutter documentation, and here, as you see, we have special templates. Cookiecutter Django. This is something what is interesting for us because we are creating the application in Django. So let's click it. As you see, it's another GitHub repository, and we can read here that Cookiecutter Django is a framework for jumpstarting production-ready Django projects quickly. That sounds absolutely great. We have a documentation. We can see the troubleshooting section and link, but let's skip it for now. Please take a look for a while at the features section. As you see, there is a long list of features. We can read here that it's for Django 4.2. Okay, we have 5.0 now, and I think we will update it, but with this Cookiecutter we can have a 4.2 Django, which is okay also. It works with Python 3.12 and it's okay, it's the latest version of Python. It renders the Django projects with 100% starting test coverage. Cool. Twitter Bootstrap version 5. Okay, that's not a feature, I think that's the bug, but that's my private opinion. Let's leave it. We won't use it. It have 12-factor based settings via the Django environment. Cool. It's secure by default with the SSL. It has a registration via the Django Allowed. That's absolutely great. The Django Allowed is it's something big, and it's good we have integrated with this application with the Django Allowed. It comes with the custom user model ready to go. I will tell you about it a little bit more later. Not sure if it will be in this episode, but I will discuss this user model, and we will go to this feature in the future. It's an optional basic asynchronous setup for WebSockets. We will use it, and as you see, everything is configured. We have a custom static build using Gulp or Webpack. We have the email configured via AnyMail or using Mailgun. As you see, there is a lot of these small integrations we usually need in our application, and we have all of them ready to use. It's okay, it's absolutely okay, and I think it's something at least worth to check. Here in the optional integrations, we have the information about the celery and flour that will be also used by us. And here is something new I found. It's a mile pit. That's why I like the Django Cookiecutter templates, because they always surprise me with something new. Let's check what this mile pit is. Okay, as you see, surprise, surprise, it's another GitHub repository. That GitHub looks like something important, so okay, that's a joke. Of course, it's important, and we will talk about the GitHub, I think, in the next episode. We will see, but I'm pretty sure we have to implement the GitHub into our project as quickly as it's possible. So be aware, we will talk about the GitHub. Anyway, we can read here that MyPit is a small, fast, low memory, zero dependency, multi-platform email testing tool and API for developers. We are developers, we like fast, low memory, we like zero dependency. Everything looks great here, and that's something new for me. I will test it with you because I have never used it before, and I'm curious how it works, and I can't wait when we will test this feature in our project. But let's go back to the Django Cookiecutter documentation and this repository. Here and at the very bottom of the page, at the end, you see how many people are involved in this project. And as you see, it's a huge number of professionals who works on this template. So I think it must be good. Okay, after this short introduction of Cookiecutter and the Django Cookiecutter template, I think we can start using it in our application. Before we will start creating our application with the Django Cookiecutter, I have a small request. Please go to the documentation, the Django Cookiecutter documentation, and here in the project generation options, please read these options we will use while we will installing the new application. Okay, I hope you read this documentation. Now we can go to the Django Cookiecutter website, where we will find our commands to install and to start a new application. First, let's remove the old application we have created before, and then just copy the first command. Here is a small mistake on this website. After copy and paste it, you have to remove the first $sign. That's the mistake. If you won't do this, you will have an unexpected error. Anyway, with the second command, we are start building our application. First, as you see, we have a question if we want to download the latest Cookiecutter template from the GitHub repository. And yes, we always confirm it because we always want the latest version of the application with the all features they implemented in the template. So let's confirm it. Then we have a few questions to create our application. It's 27 steps, but don't worry, that's absolutely simple. First, the application name. So in our case, it's a web app backend. Then we have a project Slack. We can skip it and stay with the default value. The description of the project, the author name, the domain name. We can skip this domain name with example.com. This is the default value. And we can change it in the future, so don't worry. Email, of course, that's the author email. And here in the question number 8, we choose the open source license. And this is not an open source application, so I am choosing 5. Question number 9, this is the question about our username type. And as a default in the Django applications, we are using the username field. But based on my experience, in most applications I have created, the username field is email. Why email? 3 reasons. First, the email is unique. The email points to a particular person, usually, maybe except the emails like contact@companyname.com. But usually they point to a particular person. And the most important thing here is that with the email we can confirm this email, and we can confirm if it's a real person. This is not the best security and verification, but in the case of creating new users, any form of confirmation of user existence is, I think, worth to implementing. So I am choosing the option number 2, email. Then we have a question about time zone, and based on my experience, it's always worth to choose the UTC time zone here. Then we will be able to play with the dates using the Python functions, and it's absolutely easy. But recalculate it unless you are creating the Django application for some specific market, like for example Poland is in one time zone. It's a Warsaw, it's a UTC plus 2 hours. So if I would create the application for the Polish market, I would take under consideration if the time zone should be UTC or Warsaw time zone, UTC plus 2 hours. But based on my experience, as I said, if you are not sure what time zone you should set here, please choose the UTC, and it's absolutely easy to change and recalculate the dates with the Python functions if we will choose the UTC here with the time zone of the whole application of the Django. The next question is the question about the Windows, and we are not running the application on the Windows, so here we are choosing no, the default value. Then you have a question about the editor, and that's an important question because the installation script will create some settings, some additional files for PyCharm or Visual Studio Code. We are using Visual Studio Code, so I am choosing option number 3. Then we have a question about Docker. Of course, we are using Docker, so please answer here yes. A question about the Postgres. Of course, we are choosing the latest version, and the cloud provider. For now, we are choosing none. We will probably use one of the cloud provider later on, but we will install it when we will start using it. So now please choose option number 4, non-cloud provider. Next question is the question about mail service, and as you see, we have a lot different mail services ready to use, and the settings can be done just by choosing the option. For now, let's choose the other SNTP, option number 9, but maybe later I will have an integration with Mailgun or some other mail service. We will see. In question number 17, use async. Of course, we will use WebSockets with UVcorn, so let's use async. Yes. Then use DRF, that stands for the Django REST framework, and of course, yes, we will use the DRF, so choose answer yes. Front-end pipeline, we can skip it for now and choose none. Use Celery, absolutely yes, we will use Celery for our tasks. Use MailBit, this is something new I have mentioned, and yes, choose yes, and I will see how it works and how we can play with this MailBit. Use Sentry. Okay. Sentry, we will use Sentry, but for now let's choose the answer no. We will integrate with the Sentry from the scratch, and I will show you how you can integrate Sentry with your application. What is absolutely must have if you have the application in a production. You must know what is happening when something is going wrong, and you have the error number 500. Without debug true, you don't know what is happening, and that's why you have to have the integration with the service like Sentry. So we will use Sentry, we will integrate with Sentry, but for now let's choose no. Only a few questions left. The next question is the question about using white noise. And because we didn't choose any cloud provider a few questions before, now we have to use using white noise to serve our static files. So choose yes here. And we can change it in the future, so in our application. So now just leave the using white noise to serve our static files. The next question is the question about Heroku. If we would answer here yes, the application with the production settings would be prepared to serve in the Heroku servers and to host in the Heroku. We are answering no here. At the end, I think, when we will have a ready-to-use application in our MVP version, I plan to make an episode or a few episodes about hosting the application in the different cloud providers like GCP or Azure or AWS or Heroku or DigitalOcean. This is not something I like to do, but you know, as a programmer, you have to know that life is not always beautiful, and sometimes you have to do something what you don't like to do. But I will prepare these episodes later. Anyway. Let's go with the next question, and this is the question about CI tool. For now, let's choose the GitHub. We will play with the GitHub repository. So let's add the GitHub. We will have the files with a Git repository. We will have the I think also added the Git ignore files, so everything will be prepared to add our repository. And what else? Keep local environments in VCS. Of course, answer yes here, and debug no. That's all. As you see, project initialized. Keep up the good work. So we have to agree with this, and we have to keep up the good work now. Okay, let's see what does this Cookiecutter script did for us. As you see, we have the VetApp backend folder, and this is the folder with our Django application we have created. Okay, I will change this folder name to the folder I am using in some other projects without underscore but with dashes. But of course, it's up to you what your application folder is. And let's open the Visual Studio Code now. And in the menu File, choose Open Folder. Here, let's find the folder. I am obscuring this my folders. Sorry, please forgive me. But it's confidential, and just find the folder you created the application, and then point on it, and then choose select. As you see, we have the whole folder with our application in the Django. The first file, I think always the most important file in every project is the readme.md, and we have the prepared file for readme.md. As you see here, we have the instructions how to use this repository, how to use this project, and how to install it. But I think it's related to the virtual environment, so we will skip it, and let's go back to the Cookiecutter documentation, where we have a section how to run our application using Docker. In a section getting up and running locally with Docker, we can read the instructions what to do to run our application with Docker. Here in the prerequisites section, we can read what we need to run our application with Docker locally. Of course, we need Docker and Docker Compose, and we already have it, so it's done. As we can read, we need also a pre-commit. And what is the pre-commit? Pre-commit is a framework, and as you see, it's another framework we are using in our application. So it's a framework for managing and maintaining multi-language pre-commit hooks. In short, it's a tool which will check our code before pushing it to the repository. And by checking the code we are pushing to the repository, I mean the check the syntax, the missing semicolons if you are using the JavaScript code, the trailing white spaces, and debug statements. So it's absolutely useful tool, and you will see that we will have a lot of automatically created fixes and changes in our files before we will push to the repository. Using pre-commit is something like using GitHub. If you are using GitHub, you have to use the pre-commit as well. To install the pre-commit, as you see, we have absolutely well-known the instruction pip install pre-commit, and that's all. We can use our terminal in Visual Studio Code, so press the Ctrl and the backtick, and then paste this command. This will install the pre-commit, and that's all. It's absolutely simple as everything we are installing on Ubuntu. And of course we need the cookie cutter, but it's already done. We have the cookie cutter. So before getting started, we are creating the Django project. We have already done it, so we can skip it. Now, in our case, we will use the command to build our stack. Unlike usual, this time we will not copy the command from the internet. I don't want you to think that programming is the copy-paste method, so this time we will type it by hand. Let's go to our terminal and type docker compose -f. Then we are pointing to the docker compose file. It's docker -compose.local yml and then command build. And here let's stop for a while. As you see, we are typing docker space compose and the rest of the command. We can type something like this because docker compose was included to docker client, and it was happened in 2020. Before 2020, before version 1.27 of docker client, we have to install docker compose as a separate tool. I am not surprised that the docker compose was included to official docker client because it's absolutely great tool. And you can, I am mentioning that because you can find on the internet, if you will search in the internet and you will find the older post than 2020, then you will have the docker compose command with docker-compose and then the command. And I'm sure that these commands will work the same without just this dash between docker and the compose. So if you will find the old post and you will find the old instructions to docker compose and you wanted to try it, just type it without this dash between docker and compose and it should work. Okay, docker is now working. As you see, it's creating the images, containers, and do every stuff the docker compose need to do to run our application. In the meanwhile, I think we have time to talk a little bit more about docker compose file. So, as you see, this is the file which describes, this is the recipe for our application and how it should be built and run on our local machine. At the top we have volumes, and volumes are persistent storage spaces that are used by containers. Persistent means that it will last even if you will delete the image or you will stop or rebuild container. These volumes will persist and will have data. So that's why Postgres, backup and Redis is in volumes. Then you have a section services, and services, this is the section with the all containers we have in our application, and it describes how to build and how to run the each container. Let's look at the Django. At the beginning we have a build section. Context points to the folder where we start, I mean the base folder of our application, where is the docker compose file. Then a docker file. The docker file is instruction for a docker how to build the application, the Django application. Image and container name. As you see, we have this image and container name starts with vet app backend, and this is the prefix we have created while we was building the cookie cutter.
Cookiecutter names for us this image and container names, and it's very useful when you have a lot of different containers, a lot of different images, and you must find some image you want to rebuild, for example, or remove and install it from the scratch. I will show you how it's displayed in a few minutes. Depends on section. This means that before installing the Django container, the container Postgres, Redis, and the MilePit must be installed earlier. Must be installed first. Next, volumes. Volumes is important, and as you see, we typed here, and I mean not we, but the Cookiecutter does. It's written here dot, then the colon, and slash up z. What does it mean? And this means that our current folder, where the Docker Compose file is mapped to the dash app application in Docker container. With this, if we will run the application in the container, and we will make some changes when we are programming, the changes will be automatically moved to the container, and we will see the changes in the application. Without this mapping, after making the changes, we would have to rebuild the container each time if we will make some changes, what would be not very convenient for us. Next, we have the env file section, and that's absolutely simple. It's just pointing to our environment files with our environment variables. You can see what's inside in these files. Then we have ports, and ports are important. We are exposing here the containers 8000 port to our 8000 port on our host, I mean on the computer where we are programming the application. And with this, we can see our application in the internet browser with the address 127.0.0.1:8000. That's because we are exposing the containers port to our localhost port. And imagine a little bit more complex project where we have two applications, two Django applications, and one of the Django application can be exposed to the port 8000, and the second one can be exposed to the port 8001, and it will work nicely without any problems. For example, the Django application is for the API, and the second Django application is the microservice, for example, to create the PDF files. That happens, and with this Docker Compose file and with these exposing ports, it's easy to run multiple Django applications on different ports, and they work nicely, smoothly, and without any problems. And at the end we have the command start. This is the script which is run in the container we are built with these instructions, and this is the simple command to start our Django application with UVcorn. As you see, we are using UVcorn because we will use the WebSocket connections, so the typical standard HTTP request, it's not enough for us. And nothing special here, it just starts the Django application. The next service is a Postgres, and it's, as you see, it's similar. We have a Docker file with the instruction of how to build the Postgres container. We have the image container name with the web app backend prefix. Then we have a volumes, and as you see, we are mapping the volumes to our volumes we have created at the top of this file, and this means that the data in the database will be persist even if we will rebuild this container or remove the image. So it looks quite similar to the Django application. MyPit is MyPit is as you see, we have something different because we don't have a Docker file with the instructions how to build the container, but we are using here the official Docker image, the same as you see with Redis. And it's nothing special here. As you see, if we will go to internet browser and we will search for the Redis Docker image, then we will find the website with the official images of the Redis, which are ready to use. That's enough to just point to the version of the image we want to use. In our case, it's the version of 6 of the Redis, and everything will be built and downloaded from the docker.io for us, and will be installed on our computer. So as you see, there is no magic here. It's absolutely simple, just the instructions how to build the container and how to build the application we are using in our multiple container applications. We have something new in salary worker service. As we see, we have this double less colon space asterisk the Django, and it's just importing the settings from the Django container. And then we make changes in the settings we have imported. So it's useful when we have repeated settings we use in different containers. So finally, as you see, the Django, not the Django, but the Docker Compose file is the instructions, only the instructions how to build each container and the whole environment we are using in with our application. It's simple, but the best is that you don't have to know it by heart, and you don't have to be expert with the Django container, because the Cookiecutter did for us this work, and we just can use the application and start the application which is ready to use. Okay, as you see, in the meantime, Docker Compose has finished his work. So we have built containers, we have built our application, and I think it's ready to use. We will check it in a second. But first, let's make a quick cleanup. I'm closing the files we don't need and the internet tab, which is not necessary now. And okay, let's start our application. And according to the Cookiecutter documentation, the last thing we have to do, we have to init the Git repository and install pre-commit hooks. I will tell more about Git because it's absolutely important thing in every IT project. And then we will discuss in details what the Git repository is and how we will use the Git repository in our entire project. So for now, just copy this command and paste it to the terminal. We will initialize the empty repository and we'll install the pre-commit hooks. After installation of precommit, we need to run the command docker compose -f, then the docker file and app. As you see, after a few seconds, we have the application ready to use and everything looks fine. We have a home page, we have the about page. Okay, they are empty, but they exist, trust me. We have a sign up form, we have sign in form, and as you see, we also have installed the Django debug toolbar. I think everything is well prepared to start programming. We have the Django admin panel, so everything looks fine. The first problem we will solve with this is we will create the super user for our Django admin panel. Let's go back to our Visual Studio Code, and here at the bottom we can add the second terminal window by clicking this plus sign. Here I am listing the Docker images we have created. As you see, all of them are pretty well named, and managing these Docker images is very easy now. I think this is something what the Cookiecutter do for us, and it does a very great job because we don't have to take care about these small things we always have to do with the new project. Cookiecutter makes sure that the project is well configured and well prepared to start programming. Okay, I'm sure you know how to create the super user in the Django. The only thing with Docker is that we have to point the container where we want to run this command. Because as you remember, we have a few services, we have the few containers up and running. And the container where we want to run this command is the container named Django. So to run the command to create super user, we need to type docker compose run --rm, then the container name Django, and the command python manage.py create super user. --rm flag, this is the command that will automatically close the container after running this command, after executing this command. And okay, we have an error. Of course, I forgot to set the file with docker compose instructions. So please add -f and docker-compose.local.yml. Then run -rm the Django Python manage.py create super user, and as you see now everything works fine. We can create our super user. I'm creating the super user with my typical email address I'm using in the local environment, with my typical password as well. And as you see, everything is okay. And we can now log in to admin panel. We have the application, and we are already logged in because we have logged in the admin panel, and this is the Django application. And as you see, everything is prepared and ready to use. We can set up the username, and we can okay, we have unverified the email address. I think we can fix it in database, and we can quickly mark this email as verified without verification process. But you know, that's the power of super user. And there is something new I have seen, and this is something what always surprised me in the Cookiecutter. They day by day they evolve, and they add some new functionalities, and I see they have added the multi-factor authentication. That's absolutely great. I planned to show you and to create and to show you multi-factor authentication, and we will do this, but as I see, everything is ready to use, so probably this will be a short episode with implementing the multi-factor authentication. Okay, I have two good news for you. First, as you see, we have created an absolutely great application, and by using the cookie cutter, I think we have saved 2 days of work, and we don't have to focus on the configuring these containers and to configure the celery, redis, and to create the user model with the abstract user class. I will show you it in the next episode. How well prepared is the cookie cutter application, the Django Cookiecutter application. And the second good news is that this is enough for today. I know that usually we have a front-end part and the project management part, but today I decided to skip it because this episode is pretty long now. And we did a great job. Hip hip hooray for you. And we will use this application in the next episode where we will start creating our VET application. And in the next episode, I will talk a little bit about Git and the GitHub repository. Then we will start programming with our backend and frontend application. As you remember, in the last episode, we started discussion about the components in the next 3. We have to finish it because the good understanding of components is absolutely important. And I will show you the way of communication between components, these props and emit the emits and so on. And later on, we have to talk about the storage, and we will use Pinia storage. But that's the future, and that's the next episode. So today it's a celebration time. Have a great day, and see you soon.